Hey everyone, and welcome back to the What Women Watch podcast where sisters meet the screen with hosts Deanne and Rochelle. Once again, this week you will hear opinions you never asked for but get to hear anyway. Each week, me and my sister get together and watch and discuss the highs and lows of the movie of our choice. Please don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at What Women Watch Podcast, and on Twitter at What Women Watch. You can also leave us reviews and comments, and we will try to address those as we can. Thank you so much for joining us today for our 4th episode. It is now time to jump into our next movie review.
This week we watched Monster-in-Law, starring Jennifer Lopez as Charlie, Jane Fonda as Viola, Wanda Sykes as Ruby, and Michael Vartan as Kevin. This director was Robert Luketic, and the other stuff he directed was Paranoia and Legally Blonde. This movie was a sweet love story between Charlie and Kevin that is challenged by Kevin's mom, Viola. They get engaged early on in the movie, and Viola does everything in her power to protect her son. Charlie soon realizes that she is trying to run her off and begins to fight for her relationship. After going back and forth trying to one-up each other, the wedding day arrives, and Charlie realizes that she can't marry Kevin in this situation, telling Viola that she has won. Viola comes to the realization that she wants her son to be happy, which is what Charlie wants too. She apologizes by saying she will do better in the future to support their relationship. Charlie accepts the apology, and the movie comes to an end with Viola watching her son and new daughter-in-law drive off from their wedding to their honeymoon. Now it's time for the Big Five breakdown. Our first topic to talk about was just how fast Charlie and Kevin's relationship was. Deanne, do you want to start us off?
Yes, so in the movie, Charlie and Kevin, they meet at a beach. It's like, kind of looks like destiny's happening, and they keep meeting and keep meeting. And it seems like they're together for a couple months, and then after those couple months, they get engaged, and it seems like about a week or a month at most later, they're married.
Yeah.
So that's kind of fast.
Yeah.
Kind of fast to me. It just seemed really, really
quick.
Really, really quick. Which they do mention a couple times. Like the mom is like Viola. She says, "This is soon.
Yeah.
This is fast.
Yeah, she accuses them of hiding a pregnancy and needing to get hitched fast.
Right.
And they're like, no, we're just in love. And that's fine. But it seems like literally it feels like it's less than 6 months and they are married.
Right.
And then at one point, Charlie is talking to Viola and saying how soon they're going to be married, and hopefully soon after that they're going to be parents. And that just seems super fast that within a year of knowing this person, they're going to be married and have a child. And that's super fast.
That is fast. And I understand that some people, that's just how it works. They meet each other, and it's just, it works out, and they get married. They're married forever, and it is what it is. It's just kind of odd to see, because it's like, okay, y'all fell in love, but they had just moved in together, and this was the first time she had met his mom.
Yeah, when he proposes.
Right, and she doesn't meet his grandmother until the wedding day. So, there's no, let's see if this works, let's see how we work as a unit. It's like, we're together, we like each other, we love each other, we're engaged, we're married, and hopefully kids soon. And it was kind of fast.
Yeah, the pacing seemed really fast. It does happen in real life, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just usually, in fiction, you want things to feel... Because in real life, you feel thousands and thousands and thousands of emotions. There's lots of things to work with. Maybe that is how fast people can fall in love. But with a movie, we see very small snippets of this, and it's like, yeah, I believed they loved each other, but it was like, okay, but they've never fought. They didn't have one fight this whole movie. You know, like we didn't see any sort of how they deal with conflict.
Well, except
like,
for the part that she walks in and he's kissing.
Oh, yes. Yes, there was that. But even that, there was no real... They didn't talk about it. They had like a 2-second conversation where he was like, I'm going to take you home. And then it kind of went away.
Right.
You know?
I think a part that played in it, though, which did make it believable, where I was like, okay, it seems like that's what type of woman she is whenever she does actually meet him for the first time, she's reading like horoscopes on a newspaper. So I think she's the type of person that believes in destiny and fate and stuff, because she also her and her friends are together and they're reading tarot cards.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, that's me. I saw this guy 2 times, and then she sees him at a party and she's like, 3 times in 2 days, what's the odds of that? So like sometimes in a movie it's like the friend that's trying to convince her and she's like, no, this isn't, you know, and then it takes a little longer. But the main character, Charlie, she believes in it. She believes in fate. She believes in destiny. She believes that, you know, these horoscopes are real. So maybe she really did believe that this was the man she was meant to marry. She's like, no, I love him. I'm going to marry him. This is it.
Yeah.
Also, it goes in with, they're both in their like mid-30s-ish.
Yes.
So they probably have experience dating. This isn't their first relationship. So they know what feels good, what feels right. Neither of them started the relationship with any kind of lies or anything. She knows that he's a doctor. She knows that his mom is a TV, you know, show person. He knows that she's a temp, and she never changes who she is. She is who she is. And so they go along with that story. So there's not really anything that they have to work through. The movie's more focus is that this mother of the son has some working out to do in her own mind, and then this, you know, soon-to-be daughter-in-law has to work through that as well. But as far as the relationship-wise, some people just kind of work out, especially if you believe in destiny and love at first sight. Some people really believe in that.
Yeah.
And, you know, if it works, it works.
That's very true. And actually, I just had kind of an epiphany, and it's kind of, I feel a little like, oh, I just thought of something that's very obvious. The movie is not actually about their love story.
No.
The movie is about the mom realizing that her son is going to be okay and their relationship's going to survive him getting married.
Right.
That's the point of the movie. It's called Monster-in-Law, and I didn't put that together until just now when you were talking about it, because I was focusing on how fast they moved in the relationship, but that's because it was a secondary storyline.
Right.
The main storyline was that mom coming to terms with her son.
Right.
Getting married.
And being okay with it.
Yeah. So it didn't really matter, like, how fast it was. The point was the mom.
Yeah, it was kind of like a side story, which is why he's not there a lot in the movie. He's off at work and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's about this mother and daughter-in-law trying to figure out, how are we going to coexist?
Yeah.
How do we coexist in his world?
Yes.
You know, because I want to be important to him, and so do I, type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. I just realized that. I just put that together.
So, she just figured out that the show is called Monster-in-Law. And yes, that is the point of the movie.
Yeah.
I think it's also something to point out that with them moving so fast, I don't think Charlotte knew what his world really was like. They didn't really have the time for him to... I'm sure he explained it a little bit, but that very first thing that they go to, and she's like, there's a prince here. Yeah. I don't think she fully realized how famous his family is. So she goes there and she kind of feels out of place, which is what the mom was trying to do. But I think she feels so out of place. And I really liked the part, which is another reason why I'm like, you know, maybe they are meant to be together. Because not just anybody would have been able to talk her down. She was like, okay, I don't belong here. This is too much and stuff. And he was like, wait, this is not my world. This is what I grew up around, and this is, you know, this is where I come from, but you are who I marry. You are my world. And so that also shows that he's not just marrying her because she's pretty or marrying her. he's making a commitment that he understands what he's getting into.
Yeah.
He understands she doesn't come from his world. He doesn't care. He wants her to be his world. He loves her for who she is. And it shows that throughout the movie because she's a temp at the beginning of the movie. She's a temp at the end of the movie. He doesn't change her. Yeah. Neither of them have to change who they are to be in love, which is kind of one of the purest kinds of love. Yeah. Is whenever you don't have to have that, oh, well, we work together as long as I make this compromise. They just work. Yeah. You know, and that's kind of cool to think of, too. Because I'm sure there are people in the world that just work. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. He's not trying to make her fit into his world. Like, he's not saying, oh, no, you'll be fine. You'll fit in. Just give it some time. It'll happen. No, he's like, I don't care. We're making ourselves. We, like, who I am separate, like, who I was separate from you does not matter as much as who we are going to build together. Exactly. Yeah. Which is why I think they work. Yeah. So maybe it was fast, but also if you find somebody that you fit in there, you fit in your own little world together and you're both okay with that, maybe you hold on to that. Yep. You know? Get married, get engaged. Because some people, maybe they overcomplicate an engagement and they're like, should I? If you love the person, maybe just go for it. Yeah. Whatever works for you. So our second takeaway from the movie was just, we wanted to talk about all of the writing that happened for this movie. So first and foremost, I wanted to say that the movie made me laugh so many times. It was hilarious. All of Wanda Sykes' lines were so funny. Jane Fonda made me laugh all the time. J-Lo was so hilarious. All of it. They were all so funny. There were just a couple of parts where I was like, I don't like how they did that. One of them was they kept making fat jokes or comments about J-Lo's body, or Charlie's body, J-Lo's character. And they kept saying, like, Kevin prefers his women thin and things like that. And I was like, J-Lo looks exactly like the other women in this movie. Like, she is no bigger than any of them. So why are we making fat jokes when she's not big? And also, you shouldn't make fat jokes in general about anybody, even if they were big. And it was only whenever she was eating. So, like, at the restaurant, she was ordering a burger instead of probably, like, a salad. Yeah. And she was like, you're not going to fit in your wedding dress. Yeah, exactly. And actually, that part was one of my lines that I wrote down that I liked was, Charlie said, well, I'm making the dress to fit me, not the other way around. And I think that is such a good mentality to have. Because too often people are talking about how, oh, I need to get bikini ready. Or, like, I need to be able to fit in my wedding dress. And no, clothes come in all sizes. Anybody's body is beautiful. You know, like, it doesn't matter what shape you are. The clothes are going to fit if you buy the right size. Right. You know what I mean? It's hard to find a movie without fat jokes. Oh, I completely. It really is. Yeah. I watch a lot of movies and I can enjoy the movie a lot. And there's going to be at least one or two jokes or comments about being a bigger person or whatever. Yeah. Especially if it's starring a bigger person, which this was not. So I don't understand why there were so many. That's what I'm saying. Like, you shouldn't. There is nothing wrong. Like, people are reclaiming the word fat and they're calling themselves that when they're bigger, and that's fine. That's up to them. But you should not make fat jokes at them. Like, they can reclaim the word and call themselves that and be proud of that, but you should not be making fun of them for it. You know what I mean? Right. It's not okay. You should not make people feel insecure about what they look like. The other joke that I did not appreciate and did not like was Kevin's friend, Kit. They look like they had been friends for a long time. The only thing I know about him after watching the movie is that he apparently really likes really young girls. Because there were two jokes, at least, maybe I didn't catch any more of them, but there were two jokes about him. One of them being that the girl he took to the engagement party was like, oh, I have midterms tomorrow, I need to leave early, and he, like, shushed her. And, like, at best, she's in college, and he's at least 35, so that's whatever, at least she's an adult.
But then at the wedding, he hits on this girl, and he's like, "Who are you with, the bride or the groom?" And she's like, "I'm here with my mom," which implies she is underage. And I'm just like, why is the joke that
he's... Yeah, it's not really funny.
Yeah, it's not funny. Like, why is the joke that he's trying to be creepy with young girls? You know?
Right. My points in writing of the movie was, first of all, Wanda Sykes.
Hey.
She did phenomenal in this movie. She is the type of acting that I love.
Yeah.
So I really, really, really love getting into a movie with the main characters. It's great. It's funny. But whenever you have a good cast with great starring roles, but then also good side characters, the movie is 10 times better. And Wanda makes this movie, I would say, 1,000,000 times funnier.
Well,
she
yeah.
does. All her lines were, I mean, it was just so funny. I laughed so hard with her because the part where she says, "I am sick. I am sick, sick, sick of your shit." Like, she just, the way she delivers her lines is perfect. Her facial expressions in her thing. Like, at one point, Charlie is drinking coffee in the morning, and she's like, "I was wrong about you. You don't need a gun." And she's making eyes at Charlie like, "I know what, you figured it out." But you can tell that she's doing comedy and she's doing acting without even using words. You can tell exactly what she's feeling, exactly what she's saying in her head. And J-Lo did it too. J-Lo's looking at her, and you can tell she's like, "You don't know, I'm not saying." Like, it was so brilliant. All the women in the show, which the man did really good too.
He's just not in it as much.
He's not in it as much. But Wanda and J-Lo and Jane, they did phenomenal. Like, the parts where they needed to act crazy and insane, they did wonderful. The parts where Charlie and Viola stand up at the table and is like, "I'm not going to take this from you." And she's like, "I'm not going to take it. Bring it on," basically. It's great. They did a wonderful job. This is wonderful that they really didn't need any kind of man or anybody to figure out their problems. They're like, "I'm going to solve this myself." Because the character Charlie really could just cried to her new-to-be husband and say, "Oh my God, your mom's being so mean to me, and can you tell her to stop?" And, all of this. And she didn't. She was like, "Oh, okay, this is what we're doing."
Yeah.
Well, no, I can do it back. And it was funny. It came off really good. I enjoyed it thoroughly. It was very, very fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Another part that I wanted to talk about was the character of Remy, which was her friend, Charlie's friend. He, very early in the beginning of the movie, you're like, oh, he's the gay best friend. Like, as soon as he's introduced, you're like, he's going to be her gay best friend. And that's a trope they use in movies. Whether or not that trope is good is not what we're talking about. But I think it was executed good in this particular movie. Because he is not a stereotype of a gay best friend. He's just happens to be gay and her best friend, which I think is brilliant because there's nothing wrong with being flamboyant, and he was a little flamboyant in moments, but he was not over the top and the butt of the joke with his flamboyancy or with the fact that he was gay. He was just her friend, and he had things about his personality that had nothing to do with that, which is where when you put the trope of gay best friend in movies that they sometimes get it wrong, is that's all there is to them, is they're, comical about the gayness. But he had things about himself that he was like, it was funny for different reasons. Like, he was very Snoopy, I guess is the word you could use, because there's a part at the very beginning where Charlie, Remy walks in to her, bedroom, and she's like, "Hey, let yourself in to my apartment." And he's like, "Of course, I was out of coffee, and you have the good coffee." And Charlie's like, "Okay, I'm gonna head to work, you, have fun, snoop through my drawers, I'll be back later." And he's like, "Cool, gotcha." And it's this funny little moment, and then in the middle of the movie, the part where Charlie figures out that Viola is investigating her and trying to to be rude to her, like try to scare her away, is because Remy is over at her house hanging out with her, and he walks out and he's like, I was just minding my own business in her room, in her closet, and I found all this stuff about you. And it's just so funny because he's got more going for him, and I think that was a great choice for the writers.
Yeah, he did, and also that actor did really good.
Yes,
with the part, because he was a good friend to her.
Yeah,
like he supported her through whatever decision she was making, and whenever he had a concern, he voiced it. But he wasn't constantly like antagonizing her. He just was her friend, and there was also no beef. Sometimes there's like whenever there's a man friendship other than the husband or the love interest, there's like a, oh, she's mine, you can't be her friend type of thing, and there wasn't even that. They didn't even mention that.
No, not at all.
Which was cool because she can. That's what I said. He never tried to change anything about her, which was really, really cool. You don't find that very often, where there's not something that isn't liked about the other person that just nags them to the, and that just wasn't a part of the movie, which was cool.
Yeah, it was nice. So our third topic we wanted to talk about was the fact that it kind of felt like Viola forgot where she came from.
Right. So you don't figure this out until the end of the movie. Well, throughout the movie, it kind of mentions it because he's telling her about his mom. And he's like, oh, she was married and someone got her her first job in a talk show, and, it boosted her career. But it's not really exposed until the end of the movie, whenever Kevin's grandma shows up to the wedding, and you can tell that they have, it's kind of like a play on everything that Viola and Charlie have been going through, Viola and her mother-in-law went through.
Yeah.
And so she mentions that she used to drive a broken down van and drink wine from a box and all these things. So that kind of equates to she didn't start her life rich. She didn't start her life from money, but that doesn't mean that she was a gold digger, which is kind of, it just kind of makes you do, because at the beginning of the movie, whenever she meets Charlie, she's worried because she's like, she's a temp. She's trying to take my son's money. She's look into her, see if there's something wrong with her. And so that was kind of an interesting thing to find out about Viola, because it kind of made you wonder, like, did she just forget where she came from? Like, not every poor person that marries someone rich is a gold digger.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying there isn't anybody that marries for that reason, but I'm just saying not everybody is. So it's kind of odd that she came from the same kind of background and had that judgment that fast about her. It could just be because that's her son and she's overprotective or whatever, but it was just kind of weird to put that there. She also goes out of her way whenever she's introducing Charlie to people to be like, this is Charlie, she's a temp. This is Charlie, she's a temp. And what a temp is like a temporary worker. So she works at jobs temporarily as she gets called, which there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But that's the problem that this mother-in-law has with her.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely nothing wrong. Job is a job. The money is all green. It's not...
She also was paying for her own apartment.
Yeah, she had her own place. She looked settled.
Right.
There was nothing wrong with Charlie in that sense,
Yeah, no.
I couldn't see anything wrong with Charlie at all. But, from what Viola was looking into, it sounded like she was looking for, like, massive debt and, like, a string of ex-lovers and things like that. That was the things that she got Ruby to investigate about her.
Right, but then whenever they didn't find anything, that worry should have went away.
Yes, exactly.
But it didn't. She still was like, no, she's not here for the right reasons. And that was just kind of crazy because, no, you just saw she's not just marrying people and divorcing them for their money. She's not no crazy amount of debt. She's not, like, she wasn't in any debt is what Ruby said.
Yeah.
And so it kind of made you see that, okay, she's not doing this out of concern anymore for Kevin. She's doing this just out of spite. She's doing this just out of, no, he's my son.
Yes.
She's very possessive over her son. And that's kind of whenever you realize, and it's kind of a moment in the movie where she realizes, like, oh man, I was doing this for the wrong reasons.
Yes, that aha moment she has is very revealing. Yeah. It just looks weird, like, especially at the end where you meet Gertrude, Kevin's grandma, and Gertrude had the same, like, hatred towards Viola that Viola has towards Charlie. And it's just weird. It shows how if you put enough distance and time, you can fall into the same trap and same cycle of, I want to say violence, but that's not really the right word. You know, the same cycle of just trauma, what was done to you. And you should really try to be self-reflective and aware and kind of try to think about those things before you act on them.
Something else that stood out to me, though, is she didn't realize she was doing it.
No, that's what I'm saying.
She honestly didn't, because as soon as she realized it,
yep, she stopped.
She stopped and was like, Charlie, can I talk to you?
Yeah.
And apologizes. And it's like, I'm done. I was acting crazy. I'm going to admit it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think you are good for him. It was my own insecurities getting in the way. She doesn't just be like, what happened to me and I got over it, so she's going to have to get over it. She can live there. No. She's like, it happened to me. I didn't like it. So I don't want to be that for her.
Yes.
I don't want to do that to someone else. And that is so much growth. That is growth, because so many people, I've heard people say, oh, well, it was done to me and I'm fine. Okay, but did you like it? No. Okay, so maybe don't do it to other people.
Exactly.
You know, but you can't, some people don't understand that. They're like, no, they're going to be fine because I was fine. Okay, but it took you a long time to be fine. And the only reason you're fine is because there's so much, kind of like you said, distance in time that it's happened that you're okay now. But even bringing it up, you're getting just as mad 20 years later about the one situation. Whereas if you would just stop doing it, you don't have to have that relationship with your daughter-in-law. That's not the mother-daughter relationship that has to occur.
Exactly. And with things like that, like, they're saying, oh, I'm fine. Okay, but so much distance in time, you might not even recognize what it changed about you. You know what I mean? Like, it happened to her 30 odd years ago, and she's doing the exact same thing. So, like, it apparently affected you. You thought this was exactly how you had to do it. You know, it affected more than you thought, is what I'm saying.
Exactly.
You say you're fine, and you might feel fine, but, you know, there's that thing that you can't do, you know? And it's like, why can't I do that? And it's because of the trauma.
Exactly.
So, our fourth topic was specifically the quote, I just want my son to be happy, which Viola says at the very end after Charlie walks away and is like, I'm going to break up with Kevin, you've won. And Ruby and Viola are talking, and Viola says that to Ruby. And Ruby's reply is my favorite line in the movie. She says, whatever made you think he wasn't? You know? Because it just puts Viola in her place of like, oh, I wasn't doing it for him. I was doing this because I was scared. And she has that aha moment that we talked about earlier.
Right. And I think it's fair to say that everybody as a parent wants your child to be happy. And I'm going to be honest, as a parent, and I knew this even before I was a parent. I'm not saying you have to be a parent to know this, because you know this as a child. You can see it with your parents whenever you hurt them or whenever you don't live up to their expectations. A lot of parents, every parent has hopes and wants for their child. But just because you think this certain thing is going to make your child happy doesn't mean that that's going to make them happy. They have to choose what makes them happy. So that moment where she's like, I just want my son to be happy. And Ruby's like, and what led you to think he wasn't?
Yeah.
And then she thinks, and she's like, oh no, she's about to go break up with him, and I'm gonna take away my son's happiness. The thing that I've been fighting for is my son to be happy, and I'm about to ruin that.
Yes.
And that breaks her heart to a point where she's like, hey, no, Charlie, wait, please, come and talk to me. And it literally changes her whole idea of this, which is such a good mom moment. You know, like, whenever you get to the end of this, like, throughout this movie, you're kind of like, oh, this is kind of a crazy mom. But then whenever you get to the end of this movie, you're just like, man, she just really loves her son.
Yes.
That's her problem. She's letting her love blind her.
Yep.
Which happens. It happens
every
to people. Day. It happens all the time. You sometimes get so caught up in what you think you need to do to protect this person that you get in this rut of, oh wait, I need to do this for them. I need to do this for them. Even if they don't need you to do that.
Exactly.
Even if they're already happy.
Yep.
And so it kind of changed her whole personality. You could tell this wasn't who she was normally, because she was a very successful person in the public eye. It would have come out if she was this kind of obsessive, type person, but she just didn't seem that way. What happened was she got fired from a show that she
had worked
loved
with for years.
Yeah, she worked there for years, and that made her. She ended up in the psych ward, which kudos to her. She went and got therapy. That is awesome.
Yeah,
and you can tell at the beginning whenever she's working through. Okay, he has a new girlfriend. She is sitting there trying to meditate, trying to not drink. She locked her liquor cabinet. She is trying, and then something in her brain it just snaps. She's like, no, this is, you know what? You're right. I need to have a plan. I need to save him. I need to save my son. And then she goes on this journey of trying to get this soon to be wife out, which I'm not saying she's right in what she did. She's not.
No.
But by the end of the movie, whenever a person that can go through all that and then be like, no, I was wrong.
Yeah.
I was wrong in what I did. I'm sorry. It won't happen again. From the deepest of my soul, I promise it won't happen again. It was my fault. I shouldn't have done that. He is happy with you. You are right for him. She is a big person for that, because there are so many people that would have just been like, yeah, well, I guess she wasn't right for him if she's going to break up. She said, I won.
Exactly.
She said, I won. And then it would comforted the son, and it would have never came out, and then he'd have been sad, and they'd have just been like, yep, I know, she left, but I did right because I challenged her, and she failed the test.
Yeah.
And it's like, you should maybe trust your son to give that test.
Yeah.
If he wants to give that test. But I like the part that she grew.
Yes.
I love that part. It wasn't just an apology and I'm going to change my personality. It's like, no, I was acting, obviously. I was trying to drive you crazy. I'm sorry, I was wrong for that. Let me act like myself and show you that I can be a good person. And then they set boundaries and stuff, which we'll talk about in the next topic. But I loved that moment because they could have done it so differently.
Oh, yeah.
They really, really could have. And not just in movies, in real life, that situation would have happened way differently.
Well, yeah. Because people love being right. And it's very, very hard for somebody who is in the mindset of, I am right in what I'm doing. And even if they get to the end and they're like, maybe I shouldn't have done it exactly like that, they're still like, well, I won. It'll be fine. And she did not do that. Charlie was completely like, you won. I'm going to go tell him I can't go through with this. I'll leave y'all alone. I'm done. I don't want to have this hatred in my heart any longer. I don't want to have this conflict like this. This is horrible. This is not going to be great for the next 30 years of our life.
No. And not just for me and him, but for our children and stuff.
Exactly.
Which also, going back to it was fast, it goes to the maturity of her and him. Of like, okay, no, I'm not starting a marriage like this.
Exactly.
I want to marry him, but I'm not doing it like this.
Mm-hmm.
That is very mature. Mm-hmm. For her to be like, I do want to marry this man. That does make me happy, but I'm not going to do this with you for the rest of my life. I'm not going to suffer through what you're going to put me through for the rest of my life with him. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
I'm putting my own self-care before getting married.
Well, yeah, because the alternative of her doing putting herself forward, Charlie, would be to cut Viola out of her and Kevin's life. And she can't do that to her soon-to-be husband. No. She was like, I can't make him choose between you or me because that would not be good for him. So I'm going to take myself out of the situation.
Because in the movie, it's not even like he's not a mama's boy.
No, he is.
Yeah, he is. He very much is. It's not like he's like, oh, but my mom's annoying or my mom's... no. He's like, no, my mom is my mom, and without her, I wouldn't be who I am. And
she's the greatest person I ever knew.
Exactly. So if she goes in and she's like, you can marry me, but you're not going to have your mom anymore. No, that would not have worked, and that would have been so selfish, because no, he needs his mom. Yeah. He is a mom as well. He loves his mom, and his mom is there for him.
Yeah, there is absolutely nothing wrong,
right,
with a mother-son relationship that is good and healthy and full of love.
Right, and he wasn't aware of anything
of the crazy,
and he also. That's not the mom he knew.
No.
So the mother-in-law that Charlie had been knowing these couple weeks or however long it was, that Kevin didn't know her.
No.
Kevin didn't know that they were doing this and everything. So to him, it would have come out of the blue of like, oh my God, I thought y'all were fine. Why, what is going on? And it really might have made him, he loves both of them.
Yeah. Yeah, it would have been crazy and just wouldn't have worked. So like you said, I really think they both showed their maturity there. Yeah, because of the growth with Viola showed and just the humbling of herself of, no, I'm going to apologize and put my feelings aside, and no, y'all should definitely get married because y'all make each other happy, and that's all I wanted for my son.
Right.
And I just didn't realize that that's what this was because I was looking at it through a lens of I was losing him.
And I didn't realize that I was doing all of this because I wanted my son to be happy. And in her brain, she's the only thing that makes her happy. And that's like one-on-one parenting. You as a parent know that nobody else in the world will love your child as much as you do. Yes. Nobody else in the world will take care of your child as good as you do. So it's hard to unlearn that whenever they fall in love with someone and you're like, okay, I'm going to trust that they're happy and they're being loved and they're being honest with me that this is what they want and they're not being pushed or pressured into something that they're not wanting to do. So as a parent, that is very hard to do. Viola, at the end of this movie, completely changes her mindset and really realizes that Charlie's a good person. That's a huge step in parenting.
Oh, yeah.
It's a huge step in parenting. It's hard to trust somebody else with your child. No matter how old they are. Yeah. It is.
No, absolutely. And our fifth point for today was we wanted to talk about what we called the healing moment of the scene where Viola calls Charlie back and tells her, I was wrong. You should marry my son. I'll get out of y'all's way. It's fine. You don't have to worry about me anymore. And we called it the healing moment because that was, like we said, very, very big of Viola to get there in her own head and be okay with that. And it was beautiful because she really was, she was like, yes, they make each other happy, but I'm going to be separate from that because that's just what happens in relationships when people get married. And Charlie surprised her right at the very end because Charlie was like, I am not taking him from you. Actually, the opposite. I want you to love him and to love our children and teach them things and care for them in ways that me and Kevin aren't going to be able to. We want you there for every Christmas and Thanksgiving and birthday and soccer practice and all. Do not take yourself away from us. We want you front and center. And I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's a big thing, not just whenever your child gets married, but also whenever your child just grows up in general. There's a lot of parents that are like, oh, they want to leave me. It's not that they want to leave you. It's not that they're choosing to leave you. They're growing up. It is their turn to find themselves in the world and establish themselves as their own person.
Yep.
They have to figure out what makes them happy, like I said earlier. So that moment where Viola, you can tell she's scared. She's so scared, and she just looks at Charlie and she says, I'm done. I promise I'll stay out. I'll stay out of y'all's lives. I understand what I did was wrong. I won't come back. I'm done. Yeah, you can have him. And the moment where Charlie, the next thing that Charlie says is amazing because I think it's what so many children want to say to their parents. Not that this was her parent, but it's becoming a mother-in-law to her. I do want you in my life. I'm not pushing you out of our life. I want you at everything. I want you to come to birthdays and Easters and Christmas and Thanksgiving. I want you there. That's not what I'm saying. I want you to be present. I'm not taking anything. I want to be added to your family. I don't want to take him out of your family. I want a family. And she even says, I'm gaining a family through this. And I don't think Viola realized that, is that that's what she wanted. So this girl, Charlie, she's lost both her parents.
Yes.
In the show. She would probably love to have a mother figure.
Yes,
in
absolutely.
her life, and a grandmother figure in her children's life. And so that's what she's trying to explain to her, like, no, I don't want you gone. Mine are gone. And
Yeah.
I don't like that. I miss them every day. I would never want to take you away from your child. I know what that feels like to not have my parent in my life. I want you there. I need you to understand that. And with that, it was also beautiful because not many movies do this either. They set boundaries.
Yes.
They set boundaries. She said, you can call him.
Every day.
Every day. But can we limit it? That way we can have our own time. And they even negotiate. She's like 4, no 3, no 2. Like they negotiate what they're comfortable with. And not a lot of families, especially in-laws, can sit down and set boundaries.
Oh,
I don't know how you feel about that, Rochelle, but for me, I can honestly say I haven't seen many in-laws that can sit down with their in-laws and have a healthy conversation about boundaries.
Not even just damn in-laws. I've not seen many just families. Just however your family was made. I've not seen many families that can just be like, that's a boundary for me. And the other person be like, well, that's not what I want to do. So I'm not going to do that. You know? Like, people just don't do that.
Yeah, people aren't comfortable with sitting down and saying, okay, this is my boundary. Well, okay, I understand that's a boundary, but could I do this instead? Oh, well, could we do this? And negotiating a boundary. That's so healthy.
Yes.
And the fact that this movie was written in 2005, I'm like, ooh, can we just have this clip and show it to some families and be like, hey, look, this might solve some problems.
Right.
Because it was so good. It was so well written. It was so good. I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah, I really, really like that moment, especially for boundaries, because I'm really big on like consent and stuff like that. So setting a boundary is very important. You know, like you should have boundaries with everybody. Any person in your life, y'all, like you don't have to have the boundary talk with everybody, but there should be unspoken rules that is like, hey, I don't feel comfortable doing that, and people respecting that.
Right.
You know?
And I would like to touch on, it is very, very, very relatable, the part where Viola has that moment of, like I said, kind of fear in her eyes where she's like, I don't want to lose my son. It's very relatable because as a daughter-in-law, like not even going the parent route, as a daughter-in-law,
yeah,
and having in-laws of my own, I could tell whenever me and my husband first got together and whenever we were getting married, my in-laws, and I'm talking about all of them because he was raised by a village.
Yeah.
They were all terrified that this was it. We raised him, and now he's leaving. And it took so many times. It wasn't just one conversation like this, but there were so many times where I sat them down and said, I don't know what y'all are not understanding. I don't want to take him. I want to be a part of y'all's family, and I want y'all to have him. I want to have a relationship where we can both love him. You know, like I told my husband, we were young.
Yeah.
I told my husband long time ago, whenever we were having those conversations, because I was upfront with my husband about, no, this is what's being told to me, you know, whatever. I don't hide anything.
Yeah.
So I did talk to him about, hey, this is what's being said. And there were points where he was like, okay, what do you want me to do? I don't want you to do anything. I'm just letting you know that this is what's happening. And there's only so much I can take. Because I also, kind of like this moment with her, I also need to tend to myself.
Yeah.
And I would fight for you, and I would want to be the one that marries you and whatever, but I cannot let myself be put down every day because your family doesn't like me. Not for the sake of who I am, but because I'm choosing to love you.
Yeah.
If I was doing something wrong that I could fix, I would try to fix it. but I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm loving you.
Exactly.
I'm not trying to take you away.
Yeah.
And so until it was pretty close to me and my husband's marriage, like the day literally of our wedding, that my in-laws were like, we can both love him. But he's still mine. And I said, yes, that's what I've been trying to say. You know, but that's a hard thing for them to grasp. So as a daughter-in-law, watching that scene, it hits so close to my heart, because whenever she's going to tell him, I can't marry you, I can't tell you how close sometimes me and my husband were to not having the life we have now, because of those moments where I was like, I can't put myself through this anymore. I can't. And I love you more than myself. I love you. I love you so much, but I can't put myself through this.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that he could do, because, like you said, what am I going to say? You can't see your family anymore? No, your family loves you. They're not doing this because they don't like you. I'm not taking your family away. I'd rather me be out of the equation. Exactly. You know, you lived a life where I wasn't in it, and you were fine. You've never lived a life where they weren't in it, and I'm not going to take that away from you.
Yeah.
And so that moment with that ending scene, it's so relatable if you have that situation with your in-laws. And not to talk bad about my in-laws, I don't think I said anything bad.
No.
It's just, it was really what can occur whenever, and like I said, there was I never felt like there was hatred. I felt like there was just such an abundance of love that they were like, I don't want him to leave.
Yeah.
But it's hard to get them to understand that I'm not taking him. I just want to be a part of your family, and I just want to love him as much as you do.
Yeah.
And it's not a competition of who loves him more.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, I don't think you said anything bad. I mean, the sequence of events that happens is just what happens. History is not mean. It's just fact.
Right.
So.
And I mean, we got through it just like in the movie. You get through it and you do. Yeah. But it sucks for those people that don't get past that point.
Yeah.
Who can't humble themselves and move on.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I had similar situations with my in-laws, as you know, because nothing really to do with me, which is fine. It's a different situation. Oh, well, it's the same that you said. It was nothing to do with me. But, I mean, when I met my wife, she wasn't out to her family yet. And so not only did she have to introduce me as her girlfriend, she was coming out. So we had to go through the struggles of that situation, because not everybody's parents are cool with that instantly, and her parents weren't. Well, her mom wasn't. And we have definitely grown from then, because I'm pretty sure I'm her mom's favorite now, so it's fine. No.
That's what I'm saying. As long as you can grow from it, it does create a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
But you have to give it time to breathe.
Yes.
You have to give it time to grow.
Yeah.
And you have to really evaluate, is this worth getting there?
Yeah. And a lot of our first conversations about her family, she was like, I'm not going to break up with you just because they don't like that I'm gay. And I'm like, and I was telling her, I was like, I think your parents are going to be fine. You just have to give them time to have their reaction. And I very much pushed her to wait out her mom, and her mom did eventually get there, and we all have a beautiful relationship now. It's all
We're
fine.
all living our happily ever after.
We are all living our happily ever after. It is fine. So, now it is time for us each to ask a question that we were left with. My question that I wanted to ask was, which stories came from the writer's personal experiences with their own mother-in-laws? Because you could just tell that somebody had went through some of these scenes personally.
Maybe the scenes that they were imagining in their head.
Probably.
The parts that it comes back to, and you're like, oh, thank God they didn't really do.
Yeah. She shoves her face in the cake.
Right, or hits her in the head with a frying pan.
Yes.
I was like, don't do that.
Don't.
You can't come back from that.
No.
My question is, does he ever find out? I wonder if they're ever honest with him and is like, hey, we started off rocky, but we're fine now.
Yeah, we're good.
Is it just like a funny story they tell on holidays?
Right.
Because that would be kind of cool.
It would be.
I just wonder if he ever found out.
I feel like he would be like horrified right at first, but he would be like, as long as y'all are okay, you know? Like, I feel like it'd be fine, right. But he'd be like, oh my God, why? But I'm glad y'all are good now. And now it's time for our question for the listeners. What are your mother-in-law experiences? Is our question.
And it can be good or bad.
Good or bad, whatever you got. Time for Deanne's favorite part of the show, the sister scores. You want to go first?
Yes, my score was a 4, only because it's definitely a rom-com. You couldn't sit just anybody down. And I know you're never going to please everybody, but I'm talking about people that like multiple genres. You couldn't really sit in a room that someone like a thriller, someone like, and they might think it's kind of a cheesy movie.
Yes.
But if you like rom-coms, I highly recommend this movie. It's a great movie.
I agree. For rom-coms, even kind of like regular comedy people.
Yeah.
Just a regular comedy. It fits.
Well, yeah, because it's not, like you said, it's not really based on a love story. It's more of comedy between the mother and daughter-in-law.
Exactly. Yeah. I also gave it 4 hearts. We agreed on this one as well.
What's happening? We're starting to agree.
No, yeah, but I agree that not everybody would like the movie because some people just really don't like romantic comedy movies.
Right. Thank you, everyone who joined in and listened today. We would love to hear your thoughts on what we discussed. You can do that on any of our social platforms, which is Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at What Women Watch Podcast, and on Twitter at What Women Watch. Also, watch out for any announcements we make regarding what the next week's episode will be and other announcements to come. We have fun ideas, and we'd love y'all to be a part of that. Also, we would love to hear ideas from you guys as well if y'all have any for the podcast. Make sure to join us each week Thursday on Spotify for the What Women Watch podcast. As always, we hope you enjoyed the episode. Bye!